Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup, another gaff from President Biden. And honestly, we have to criticize his opponents, RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson, for not going after him in a strategic way for these gaffs, which are not gaffs. Let me show you the latest. This is him being asked about the recent, whatever you would call it in Russia, failed coup. Doesn't seem like it was even that, but he's asked about it. See if there's something wrong in this clip here.
It's hard to tell, but he's clearly losing the war in Iraq. He's losing the war at home. And he has become a bit of a pariah around the world. And it's not just NATO. It's not just the European Union. It's Japan. It's 40 nations.
So Biden is asked about if Putin has been weakened after this attempted, I'm not even going to call it a coup, but resistance over the weekend. And he says that he's clearly losing once again.
It's hard to tell, but he's clearly losing the war in Iraq. He's losing the war at home.
So the resistance and MSNBC apologists and DNC stands, obviously they like to deflect. They like to say, oh, he misspoke. Oh, he just, misstated. It's no big deal. This is not an isolated incident. This goes into a hall of fame of many other Biden, shall we say, failures to launch. When he was running for president in 2020, at times forgot Obama's name, called himself an O'Biden-Bama Democrat instead of an O'Biden-Bama Democrat. Times we didn't know where he was. Obviously, we have had moments where he has tripped, which can happen to anybody, but particularly when you're getting older. If you didn't see these moments, I'll show you these here. Then you have the latest one where he was, I believe, at the U.S. Air Force Academy. This was 3 weeks ago. Let's show you this unfortunate moment.
But afterward, as he turned to go back to his seat, the audience witnessing him fall to the stage. Real concern on that stage and in the crowd, the president quickly getting up with some help there.
So the bottom line is, listen, I could get a lot of clicks calling him all sorts of things and diagnosing him. I don't know what conditions Biden has. His medicals, they say, show he's strong. Obviously, those could be finessed. But at the end of the day, what I do know, having covered politics now for over a decade, optics matter, particularly when you give your opponent a massive weapon to show that you are unfit, either cognitively or mentally. Biden did not win in 2020 as much as Trump lost, particularly because of his horrible mishandling of COVID. But you have him confusing the current war in Ukraine with a war that ended over a decade ago. There has been so many other speeches where he's incoherent. The Republicans have been archiving these things and ready to deploy them for the general election. And he's not beating the now twice indicted former president who, by all the reports, is likely to be indicted for a third time over the Georgia case, and possibly a fourth time if you look at January 6th. Not only is he not beating him by, you would expect, the current president over a supposedly strong economy to be crushing Trump by 10 to 15 points. Right now, sure, polls are early. Right now, Trump is beating Biden in many polls. This one within the margin of error, but still, I mean, it should be setting off alarm bells that a twice indicted president who was basically pushed an attempted coup. Yes, it was an attempted coup. Sorry for those of you denialists on that subject. Biden is losing to Trump. And honestly, it seems that with every indictment, Trump gets more popular in the Republican base. But somehow, with all of this and the fact that it's not just me saying I'm concerned, it's voters saying they're concerned. Look at this latest NBC News poll. Biden remains a very vulnerable incumbent. His approval rating is 43%, and 68% say that his mental and physical health are, quote, major or, quote, moderate concerns to them, up from 51% when he ran in 2020. For Trump, the number is 55% and was 51% in 2020. Biden is up 17 points in terms of voters concerned about his cognitive and physical capabilities. This is not like a minor issue to voters. This is the issue to voters. Even more so, I would say, than the fact that he has not followed through on most of his promises, like a $15 minimum wage, public option, $2,000 checks to stop drilling on public lands, which he has expanded drilling on public lands. We could go on and on. His weakness and bullshit excuses. The parliamentarian says no, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, we don't want to do certain things because it will cause lawsuits. All of this, you barely see RFK Jr. or Marianne Williamson lay a glove on him over the clear issues with cognitive and physical abilities. And there's a way to do it in a firm but respectful way. But before we get to it, let's show you what their responses have been when asked fair questions about Biden's physical or cognitive abilities to do the job. This is RFK Jr. recently on Breaking Points.
We wanted to ask you, too, a little bit about your views of current President Biden. So one of the concerns among the general public and among Democratic primary voters as well is about his age and his just ability to perform the job that is entailed as president of the United States. Do you personally think that Joe Biden is fit to serve as president for another 4 years?
I don't have any idea. I think people around him should be giving them good advice on that. If they think that there's a lack of mental acuity or lack of capacity to deal with crises or lack of independent, an ability to exercise the independent and very good judgment, I think that they and have his family and his counselors have an obligation to our country to tell them to step down. But I don't have any kind of insight. And, I see some of the films and stuff.
Right. And you know him, don't you?
Yeah, but I haven't seen him in years. And when I had interactions with him, he was always very sharp. And so I don't know what he's like now behind the.
I don't even think that requires a comment other than pathetic, weak sauce. Why are you running if you're not willing to go after your opponent? I mean, I don't even think Bernie would have answered that poorly. And we know Bernie didn't want to go after his friend Joe. Marianne Williamson, frankly, a little better, not much. This is her recently on the same show.
Obviously, a lot of voters have concerns just about his age and his basic fitness to serve. Concerns that he has been unable to put to bed because he doesn't subject himself to a lot of interviews. He's not planning to debate you or RFK Jr. or anyone else who jumps in the race. Do you personally believe Joe Biden is fit to serve another term as president?
I think to look at a man his age and think forward 4 years, I think for me, it's an unreasonable assumption that he would be at the top of his game. But to me, even if he was at the top of his game, I'm not running because he's not at the top of his game. Even if he is at the top of his game, I'm running because I do not agree with the direction that that administration is leading the country. I do not believe that it's the direction that will even be able to defeat the Republicans in 2024. And I don't think that it's a direction that is good for this country over the next 4 years. I feel that this country is in bigger trouble than the political elites seem to realize. I think that the rabble, what they would call the rabble, is closer to the gates of the Bastille than they have any idea. And I feel like what we're living through right now is a kind of slow motion. It's like watching a slow motion car crash, except it's actually 2016. People simply did not realize how much pain there is out there.
So that was there was more to that, but she kind of alludes to his age, but kind of deduces it to, well, not at the top of his game. This is not a thing of not being at the top of his game. I'm 36. I'm not at the top of my game because I have a 7-month-old daughter and I'm not operating on much sleep. There is a current war going on where a nuclear power is involved. with a, I believe, unstable leader. You have a climate inferno right now where major urgent decisions need to be made. We have multiple crises in healthcare, education. You look at housing. There's another bubble about to burst from reports. And you have a current president who is confusing the current war with the war that ended 10 years ago. A current president who is tripping it not just once, but multiple times. And it's not just about, well, should we give Biden the benefit of the doubt? It doesn't matter whether we give Biden the benefit of the doubt. It matters the Republicans are not going to. The Republicans, if it's Trump and as the general election candidate, which by all signs is it will be, even if he's indicted 4 times, unless he drops out and makes a deal, Trump is going to deflect and distract smartly, attacking Biden's ability to do the job. Because Trump, even though he's no, fountain of youth, is not at least exhibiting these problematic signs. So if you know that the Republicans are going to do this, why are you now giving him a complete pass? I could tell you, I know that Bernie wanted to run a positive campaign and not go below the belt, blah, 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 blah. It's not below the belt if 68% of current voters, this is an NBC News poll, once again, 68% of current voters are concerned about his mental and physical health, either majorly concerned or moderately concerned. There is a way, and I'm not a campaign strategist, but I do articulate for a living. There's a way of saying, listen, we got to call a spade a spade. Obviously from a human level, hope for the best for President Biden, but there's clearly issues. And I'm concerned because I know the voters are concerned. That's what you should be saying if you're RFK and Marianne Williamson. You should be pointing out he seems to have struggles with memory. He seems to be confusing or conflating basic things like we're in a war against Ukraine currently instead of Iraq. He seems to have trouble with balance. I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose him, but obviously as we get older, he's 80, 81 years old. These things happen. And that's why, I'm not an ageist, but it is concerning because as he gets older, if he wins again and on Inauguration Day, he would be again the oldest president into almost his mid 80s at that point. So when you have RFK saying hemming and hawing and like, I don't know, I have really nothing to say about that, and Marianne Williamson quickly pivoting, you have to go after him firmly but respectfully. I don't know if they're getting advice that you'll alienate or turn off persuadable Democrats who would think that's below the belt. But those persuadable Democrats are the ones that are concerned about his cognitive and physical functioning. This reeks of the Bernie 2016-2020 that I'll only go up to a certain line, but I will not go after Hillary Clinton or Biden in ways I think are personal. But if you remember in Bernie 2020 specifically, the one period that he was actually making progress and actually gaining traction among older voters, which was always Bernie's kryptonite, is when David Sirota and Bernie's campaign were on an all-out crusade and offensive, airing ads of Biden previously as a senator saying, we need to freeze Social Security. And his basically saying we need to privatize Social Security. Biden was losing support among seniors when they went after him. It's almost like these candidates, RFK Jr., I have been open, is not who I would support for many reasons, but they're almost like either afraid to actually campaign against the sitting president, or in Bernie's case, Hillary and Biden, or they are afraid to be blamed if they go too hard and Biden loses, or Hillary in 2016, that they'll be blamed for going too hard. But the bottom line is, if you're running to win. If not, why are you running? We're not talking about Cornel West, because obviously running as a third-party candidate, there's a strong assumption you will not win, but there's other goals like getting past 5%, et cetera, et cetera. I think this is weak sauce. I know I will be attacked for bringing these things up, and I'm hurting Biden and the Democrats. I don't give a shit. At the end of the day, elections are about winning. You can't just run on the positive issues. You have to go after your challenger. go after him on policy, which as far as I can see, Cornel West has been the most aggressive so far. I just saw him do a C-SPAN interview where he actually said Biden broke his promise on $15 minimum wage and other things. I haven't heard that from RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson. So I don't know. It just seems like we have obvious opening to go after him, which, by the way, the media will pick up because the media cannot resist conflict. And that will get these candidates more exposure and get around the media blackout. It might help your case and force a debate, but they're not doing it.